I'm done for my part, and I'd like to pass the time to Dr. Michael Fang. Okay, I just introduced a bit about him. He's no longer practicing as a medical doctor, but his doctorate is from he was an MD lah. Okay, and I know him from he's a politician. Okay, he's in People's Voice, and he's also currently a law student. Okay, but most importantly, he was there with me. Okay, on 22nd August, outside the elections office, and he witnessed whatever happened. Okay, is Dr. Fang, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I'm going to pin you. Wait.
Sure,
okay.
Sure.
Hold on, I'm going to pin you. Hey, whoops. Okay, I'm going to pin you, and let's have you share this thing, okay?
Yeah, I've turned on my video and sound.
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, you want the document,
yeah, I want
right?
the document, the slides. Yeah.
Okay, sure. There's no slides, just a A4 piece of paper, right?
Sure. Hi everyone, can you see me? I'm
yes.
Dr. Mike here. Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Okay. So basically Iris have given quite the good introduction, right? A flattering introduction of what went on, and I will be giving a talk about what matters, and then what is the Constitution and why does it matter to each and every one of you? Okay. So let's. I will not be giving so much of my views, but rather a more scientific and definition-based conclusion of what is going on and what has happened. Yeah. Okay, so I'll restrict my discussion to that, looking more from a legalistic point of view. Okay, something which I'm interested in. All right. Okay, so it's like this. Okay, so I actually wrote a piece on an article on Singapore's Constitution placed in 2003, which I already attached a copy in the chat, right? For those who have it available. If not, it will be available on my Facebook page. Yeah. So it is written as it's written with respect to the WEF question and written as a apolitical piece discussing aspects of constitutional law addressing the role of presidency. All right. So I have attached in my document the source and quotes of established sources below. All right. Yes. So first of all, okay, let's go to the crux of the matter. All right. So okay, you guys are probably wondering, what is the Constitution? What is it got to do with me? Right? Agree? Yeah. I'm sure most of you will be like, what the hell? I want to get on with my life, business, and everything. Okay, but let's see what is the definition of Constitution in Singapore. So, and then from there, why it matters to you. So, what is the Singapore Constitution? So, if all of you actually take up the look in the chat, click on it, right? So, I've defined the Singapore Constitution, right, in the document, as you can see here. Okay, so the Constitution is actually sets out the basic framework for three branches of government in Singapore, which are the executive, the legislative, as well as the judiciary. So, in other words, the so-called the government ministers lah, the executive lah, the legislature is the parliament, yeah, and the judiciary is the courts, right? So it also guarantees our fundamental liberties, right? Provides for other important aspects of governance such as citizenship and use of public funding. Okay, so now why is this important? Okay, let's say for example, if you're not governed by the Constitution, then the legislature or the parliament would start to have will take predominance in the government, or either one of the three. Yeah. So the Constitution sets out the framework and the legal powers for these three, right? And so therefore they control these three. So it is a contract. Actually, look at it another way. It's a contract between the people and the government. You say, look, I give you a vote to you. I mean, but on the basis that we have a constitution. So basically, it guarantees our fundamental liberties and rights, and citizenship and use of public funds and rights. So without which, like for example, in North Korea, all right, the executive takes the main power. In other words, it sets out the conditions for livelihood. So, for example, in the case of a fisherman, all right, I read a real documentary. The fisherman wants to go out to sea to fish for his hungry family. He cannot feed his family already because everything is controlled by the government. He doesn't have the rations or provisions or the protein to feed his family. So he decides to go out fishing. And when he comes back, Well, he's hauled before a court and basically charged for illegal fishing. And you know, in North Korea, when you go to the prisons or what for that, it's tantamount to almost a death sentence. Yeah. So, and that is why the Constitution is important, because it safeguards our rights, right? Maybe the rights to go fishing, to get food for our family, the jobs that we do, right? The jobs that we can do, all are controlled by law. Or even the value of a dollar is also, in a sense, controlled by aspects of the law. Okay, so it's in this legal frameworks that we have that actually sets the basis of what we want to do in life. Like, for example, if the law prohibits you from being a teacher or foreign language teacher, you know, this is only can be done by foreigners, then of course you're restricted by law. So that's why the Constitution is important to protect your livelihoods and your jobs, because and your life, every aspect of life, because it guarantees your rights and freedom. So that is why the Constitution, being the agreement between the people and the government, is the supreme law of the land.
Yes.
It provides, among other things, the three branches of the Singapore government: executive, legislative, and judiciary, and secures our fundamental liberties. The provisions in the Constitution apply in our lives, both directly and indirectly, more often than not, without even us noticing. So, and this is quoted by, ironically, ex-president Madam Halimah Yacob on September 2016. All right. So that underlines the importance of the Constitution, and that is why, right, the presidency, the powers of the presidency, as provided for in the Constitution, is another safeguard against abuses of government and stuff, and abuses of government, and as well as the executive and the legislature, the parliament. Okay, so now that we actually see the definition of the Constitution, we can go on to understand the importance of the Singapore Constitution. So the Constitution is one of the sources of law in Singapore. It is the supreme law, which means that all other laws passed must not conflict with it. Okay, other laws passed will include legislation known as statutes, acts of parliament, and secondary legislation called subsidiary legislation passed by the government. Okay, all right. So this can be found again in our judiciary.sg. All right. All the article, I made reference to the sources and quotes, right, which is essentially under our legal system. All right. So as you can see, I've not taken a position here. I've just defined the Singapore Constitution and showed you how important the Singapore Constitution it is in safeguarding the rights of the people versus the government. So it is an agreement for which the government can be formed. So if you violate the Constitution, right, then you are violating the agreement between the people and the government. And that's serious. That's case for the judiciary. Yeah. All right. In most countries. All right. So then we go. So now that you understand the importance of the Singapore Constitution, that it affects every part of your life. Like, for example, CPF Act is passed in accordance with the Constitution. So the money that you pay to the government in form of taxes, CPF and what is under the rule of the Constitution, within the frameworks of it. So because the Constitution allows Parliament to pass legislation, so that is the foundation of their power, right? So you must understand how important it is. Even if you're a hawker or Grab driver, right? If your Constitution is not protected, you are essentially exposed to an unchecked government, which can do any and everything. Like, for example, the next day decide, foreigners are allowed to drive Grab. Yes, it is a legislature and it's supported by, behind it is the Constitution. So that is why the protection of people's rights under the Constitution is very important. Now we look at the next one, roles and conflict of interest positions. Okay, so yeah, have you gone to the next part of the article? All right. So don't worry, all my articles are as close to the sources as possible. Okay, so I'm not taking an individual position here, but I'm trying to explain the issue at hand. So okay, now as Singapore's Constitution is codified, it passes a basis for laws to be made in Parliament. So what is the difference between a codified and uncodified constitution? Like, for example, in Britain, because it was the first grounds for formation of democracy, its constitution is actually uncodified. It is written in all over the place, right? And in many aspects of the law, some are written, some are not written. And that forms the basis of Britain's parliament. Okay, in Britain, they have something called parliamentary sovereignty. All right, parliamentary sovereignty, where parliament is sovereign. All right, because their constitution is uncodified. But as Singapore's constitution is codified, in other words, written down properly in law and code of conduct, it poses as a basis for laws to be made in Parliament. Whereas it's a common code of conduct for members of Parliament, let's say, for example, to juggle multiple roles in directorships, okay, provided it does not conflict and MPs are able to fulfill their duties, the presidency may be allowed by political convention, albeit with revised guidelines. All right, look at my reference here. It is with reference to the PMO's office itself, right? So you can see my first three top references, all right? If you take a look at the bottom, okay, it starts from, library at SMU, looking at the law context. The second reference, judiciary.gov.sg. The third reference is nes.gov.sg, archives online. This is from the PMO office itself, all right? So these are principles defined by the government in power, i.e. still the PAP, all right? Which is so I'm not deviating or giving any alternate point of view, but prim and proper stuff. All right? Clear? Huh? Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, the PMO has said, okay, MPs can actually, do some directorships, where there's not conflict, they're able to fulfill duties, that's okay, and then you do some revised guidelines on it, all right? However, the difference in this case is that in the case of key appointment of the presidency, okay, you have the same principles that should apply, yes, but it should be set to a higher standard by logic, as the role accompanied by one man fulfills the entire role of the presidency. So it's no longer isolated cases of MPs, trying to fulfill their directorships, so on and so forth, which is kind of a gray area, right? But this one absolutely have to fulfill the entire role of the presidency. Therefore, it should define the code of conduct entirely as upheld by the Constitution. So there's no running away here, in other words, yeah? Note that the presidency also requires the vaccination of posters from political parties. Thus, the question should be viewed apolitically. Okay, I hope you agree with me here, because I mean, this is definitely a resignation of posts for a reason, right? To stand apart from political questions at hand. Okay, so that is the role of in interest of conflict positions with regards to our government, yeah, the Singapore government. All right, so I'm quoting more or less quite verbatim from what they are doing, right? And I don't think there's any conflict here in the definition, the quotes or the follow-up. All right, the WEF following question. So you can always see the reference that I made to the sources in terms of my argument at the end of the article. So that's okay. All right. I mean, of course, you go back to defer, there be different opinions and so forth. That's fine. Yeah, but I'm trying to adhere as strictly as I can to the question. All right, and setting out the basis of the framework of the definitions of governance, right? What is the Constitution? Okay, what's the importance of the Constitution? Where is the role of conflict of interest in this case? And now, we with respect to this question, we shall examine the WEF question, right? We call it World Economic Forum question. Okay, so I will not state my own view. I will state the WEF agenda as stated on the website. Okay, so you can read. All right, so basically, it's an international organization for public-private cooperation. Okay, engages foremost political, business, cultural, and other leaders of society to shape global, regional, and industry agendas. Okay, you're hearing it from themselves, not I make up one, okay. So those is true. There's some implication here in the roles that it plays in political, business, and cultural, and other stuff, industry even. All right, so a bit of the history, right, and so on and so forth. Tries to be politically correct. You can see probably it's drafted by some legally trained fella, and okay, we believe that progress happens by blah blah blah, some happy statement. Okay, bring together people from all walks of life who have drive and influence to make positive change, right? So this sounds like a very fluffy statement. We don't really know what it's about, okay? But we get that it has a hand, engages the foremost political, business, and cultural. So Iris is not wrong in a certain aspect of that, right? However, searches on the population agenda only turned up talks of great reset. What that means, okay, to individual to interpret, right? But I'm not here to do the interpretation. I'm here to clarify and crystallize the definition, bring pertinent, important aspects of the Constitution to you, So is Singapore part of the WEF? So that's the next question. So we have the WEF agenda. Now, is Singapore part of the WEF? So that is, I think, is a valid question to ask. All right. So the government position, as of previously, right, okay, for the president's role is that the president represents a country in official diplomatic functions, number one, possesses certain executive powers over the government of Singapore, that's true, and including the control of the national reserves in part, yes, and ability to revoke and appoint public service appointments. So apparently the president has quite a role in the executive function of government, all right? Okay, as secured by the Constitution, okay? So the MAF recognition of that. So the next question is, okay, the next part of the question is there some governmental recognition of WEF? All right. So from the MAF website itself, the MAF recognition of WEF status is that, as you can read, I took it verbatim from the MAF website. So it actually states that Singapore participates regularly as AGM in Davos, Switzerland, and also in WEF regional meetings. All right. Okay. So without stating that whether WEF is benign or is malignant or malevolent, as you call it, yeah, there is a recognition by the government of the WEF status, okay? And by constitutional law, in the Constitution, Articles 19(3)(a) to D, once elected, the president shall not hold any other office created or recognized by the Constitution, that's one thing, all right? Nor actively engage in any commercial enterprise. That's the interesting part in this, and not be a member of any political party and not serve in parliament at the same time. So commercial enterprise, okay, there is no need to state a commercial enterprise is for profit or not, right? Because as long as it's a commercial enterprise, all right. So we look at the WEF statement as previously stated, the WEF question. The forum engages the foremost political, business, cultural, and other leaders of society. So business, even if we take it, okay, you say it's political on a national level, you can't escape the business aspect of it. All right, it has influence in business. It is a quasi or a business organization, even if you don't want to define it as a political organization, and therefore by constitutional law, it violates this clause, right? Doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, political arguments one side,
Well done.
argue that it's semi, but you can't run away from this. Yeah. Yeah. So now there is a clear reading of this phrase. Yeah. So either one. Okay. So they may escape with the office created or recognized by the Constitution. So they can argue that WEF is not it's not the organization recognized by the Constitution, but by our government. Fine. But then it might potentially run into conflict with the third clause of this constitutional law. Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying because of looking at aspects of law. I'm not taking any position. Interpretation is up to each and every one of you, right? So, okay. So let's take a look from the other angle, the WEF position. So what does the WEF entail? So I've captured the image of issues of the WEF is concerned with. All right. So in their top 10 risk report, so they are actually concerned with these issues. Okay, cost of living crisis. All right, natural disasters. We don't really have that, right? Geo-economic confrontation, yes, we probably have that. Failure to mitigate climate change depends on how successful the government is. In the climate bill that's coming up, right? And we have other issues here. National resource crisis, large-scale involuntary migration. Now, all of us are suffering from that now due to some treaties. I will not mention the names of, but essentially there's issues there, yeah?
And Remy Treaty, yeah.
Well, you know the name of the treaties. Okay.
I'm going to talk a lot about that, man.
Yeah, indeed, you see. So we do talk a lot about that, but more the inequalities of the treaties as treating Singaporean citizens. Because even new citizens are citizens. We will not deny them that. They have thrown in their lot. They will suffer the same effects as the rest of our citizens. But barring that, we look at the overall view. It seems that these issues are potentially, in fact, issues are being dealt with our local government as of now, and even potential future issues. So there is actually potential perceived conflict of interest. It doesn't need to be actual. So conflict of interest can be actual, can be perceived as well. So potential perceived conflict of interest issues can arise to our president representing issues such as these vis-a-vis president's oath and the issues therein. Now we look at the president's oath, okay? So having been elected President of the Republic of Singapore, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully discharge my duties to the best of my ability without fear or favor, affection or ill will, and without any regard to my previous political affiliation or affiliation with any political party, and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Republic, that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Singapore. Okay, now, if you were to do that, right, and now you have WEF interest in these topics, okay, so it comes to the point, whether the WEF aids the government position, okay, that means actually, in tandem, right? Okay, so everybody's happy, right? Not so. Or opposes it, a conflict of both is actually both a conflict of interest, as the persona of president will be perceived or questioned on actions or cause or benefit of which side. Now, which side do you represent, or which side are you actually pushing the position for?
Exactly.
You can't, even if you are in tandem and accord. So therefore, the moment they have a hand in this, it is a perceived conflict of interest. Because let's say, look, actually you're helping the WF pushing the agenda without considering national interest. Look,
Exactly.
national interest without and ignoring WF. Either way, it is a perceived conflict of interest, right? Because you look at the president's oath, right? It is an absolute oath. It is not a relative oath. So being an absolute oath, yes, swearing Republic and true and faith and allegiance in Singapore, you cannot violate that. But at the same time, you look at the WEF policy on conflict of interest. Okay, just I digress a bit. Talking about the Great Reset of a date, but thus far I cannot find any evidence of direct talk about WEF or depopulation agenda. They have a counterclaim that is misrepresented by some press versus their talk on decrease in population. However, there is objective evidence written of a UNICEF WF agreement to ship vaccines across the world. So that one is actually a reference to, you see my endnote here, section 10, yeah? UNICEF.org press release. UNICEF and WF signed Charter 18 shipping lines and logistics. So that one, however, is established fact on UNICEF website itself, all right? So we can see some Great Reset and some vaccines, but yeah, a bit more difficult to draw the link here. But as I said, I'm not giving opinions. I'm more or less like just trying to define what I read. Yeah. So I've read so far. Okay, let's re-summarize. Involvement of WEF issues, right? That can potentially conflict with the president's oath of office. All right. And let's see WEF stands. Okay. So we see now we go through the issues that WEF sort of deals with. All right, so you have an understanding. So you have an understanding of the Constitution, you have an understanding of why the Constitution is important, because it protects every aspect of your life. The moment you remove that protection, anything can happen. And anything, as I mean, regard your jobs, for example, the first thing, your children,
Exactly.
your housing, CPF, right? It's an act that is, a legislative act, okay, that is passed with the powers given to the government by the Constitution. All right, so you understand that. Okay, not just CPF for taxes, everything else. Yeah. So that's why is important that the Constitution normally be upheld like normal countries, unless there's parliamentary sovereignty like in Britain, because that's an exceptional case, right? So there are certain exceptions, but in Singapore, we're lucky to be a young nation because our Constitution is codified and written in law. So that's why it's important, all right? You don't end up like North Korea where you can't even fish for your family, right? Correct. I mean, like that's quite bad. Yeah, you can't even eat. Yeah. So okay. That's
why I'm fasting. That's why I'm fasting, Michael.
Okay, so it's good. I understand why you're fasting, but this is a real fast, an enforced fast. You can't even feed your families because of powers invested by the Constitution in the three armed branches of government. Which, if the Constitution is abolished or abrogated or abused, it will not protect your rights, and you can't find food, you can't find your, housing, family, everything. Yeah. So that's why it's important to have peace of mind even when you work. All right. Okay. All right. So I'm re-summarizing back where I come from. And you see the issues that WF is handling. I'm not saying anything else, but everything on their website. I'm not saying they have the population agendas, but it seems very weird what they're doing. All right. Okay. So we know that now it is actually an international organization, according to their own website. And WEF position on the conflict of interest. That comes the interesting part. All right, let's look at what happens, what is seen or derived from their website. Okay, so this is directly from their website. A conflict of interest arises when your personal interests or those of your spouse, close relatives, personal relationships, friends, or third parties interfere, or could be perceived as interfering with your professional judgment, objectivity, independence, or loyalty to the forum. So what does it mean? Okay, look, on one hand, you have the president's oath. On the other hand, You have sworn the president's oath, affirming 100% loyalty with regards to issues that could potentially clash with WEF. And now on
Exactly.
this one, you have to define the WEF conflict of interest defines that as anything interfering with your professional judgment, objectivity, independence, or loyalty to the forum, quote unquote. In other words, you are supposed to be loyal to the forum at the same time. Okay, and as I said, whether you aid those issues earlier or you go against those issues earlier, it is both a conflict of interest because, or at least a perceived conflict of interest because the public will not know where you stand.
Exactly.
All right. Yes, because it becomes mixed now. So we are not talking about other stuff. We are just talking about technical definitions by WEF, technical definitions by the government. All right. And all these are referenced with quotes to the sources below. All right. Of course, you've got counter opinions. You can raise them up later in the forum. That's fine. Yeah. So foreign staff must avoid any activity. Okay, this is from WEF that could lead or be perceived. Look at that. I underline the word perceived to lead to a conflict of interest. Now, the president's oath actually will be in direct conflict of this because the issues they handle are going to be related or same because from what we see, okay, refer upwards back to the definition of president's roles and responsibilities. Okay, the president represents the country, reference 6, PI, the Istana President Office, first in 1965. All right, that's the quote there. The president represents a country in official diplomatic functions and possess certain executive powers, over the government of Singapore, including control of the national reserves, i.e. what it's used for, and the ability to revoke and appoint public service appointments. But this has a direct impact on issues that are being handled, right, in the category of top 10 risks as seen by, lifted from the WEF itself. All right, in respect to their functions. Okay, no, so now having seen this, and then these are quote and quote mostly from the government, from the WEF itself. I very rarely, I don't interject my own opinion, but just a logical a link to it, that's all. Yeah. You are expected to inform the Chief Human Resource Officer or Head of Human Resources from the WEF, okay, LLC, World Economic Forum LLC. So in other words, okay, there's some lawyers behind it, right? Or the head of the legal department as soon as you're aware the potential conflict of interest may arise. Now, isn't that interesting? So basically, they have some accountability as well, large, right, to the public. Yeah. So in other words, their legal policy. This is about corporate governance, whether in any organization or worldwide. Corporate governance states that they need to be accountable somewhat to the public nowadays, right, and to the shareholders and to all the stakeholders. So the public is also a stakeholder in this case. So. And luckily, WEF is also regulated by a legal department, LLC. Correct? You can see here, right? This is lifted directly from their website, right? I did not say anything or add anything of myself. All right. So these are conflict of interest situations. Might appear that way to others, either inside or outside the forum. Now, this is very key. Okay, so they define conflict of interest this way. So conflict of interest, real or perceived, all right, involving a member of the executive board will be dealt by the managing board. That becomes interesting. A member of the managing board will be dealt by the government board of trustees of the world. Okay, so there's something there, right? Some government board of trustees of the world which they need to hold public accountability to by their legal team.
Where is it? When the document?
Are you following me already? Just above, before applied, can law be applied retrospectively? Above that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, conflict of interest. That real or perceived, yeah? So you see, the managing board can be dealt with by the governance board of the board of trustees of the world. Whatever that means, yeah. I'm not very sure what that means also. So there's some board running around that actually can regulate them and will be advised by the lawyers. Okay? Yeah. So this is the not mine, not I say one, not one. So all the reference I've been taking from is from the government and as well as from the government itself, as well as from the WEF itself, right? And just basic principles of law, yeah? Basic principles of constitutional law. All right, now let's take a look. So basically, the decision may be taken without participation of the concerned individual. So they try to appear very upright and forward going with the public, yeah? So they do seem to have some public accountability respect to their lawyers, right? So that is an interesting venue that we can look at. Yeah. But again, back to the primary question, because we are talking about the state of constitutional law and what is constitutional law, the importance of constitutional law, and the place of constitutional law in the year 2023, right? So, because let me explain, because we have a codified constitution as opposed to an uncodified one by the UK. So in the UK, sometimes you can apply the law retrospectively, all right? So they did that with Burma oil, yeah, the case of Burma oil, okay, all right, in which they applied retrospectively in respect to war damages. But that is because in Britain it's under a system of parliamentary sovereignty. It was a start base of democracy, okay, after the Magna Carta and all that. So historically, their constitution is all over the place, all right? It's uncodified in a single written format, all right? So the judges have to take the law from various aspects. And so in a sense, they're uncodified and they defer to parliamentary sovereignty. But in Singapore's case, it is supposed to be a codified constitution, and a codified constitution means it is written formally for a reason, right? To make sure that the rights of the citizens are protected in exchange for the governments to have powers over them to rule them. So that is what the framework of the constitution is essentially about, and the understanding of constitutional law. So, yes, in Singapore, it has been applied retrospectively a few times in special cases. And in these cases, not for criminal law, okay, but retrospectively for procedural law, is to ease administration of the procedures, essentially, right. So, but to get the essence of what our stand, right, what our stand is in Singapore for the law, we actually can take a look at a leaf from Minister of State. Not that I'm quoting PAP MPs. I'm not quoting any funny thing from any other political party or from non-government or whatever you can take. Okay, so what I'm saying thus far should be quite solid. Yeah, all right. Minister for Law. Okay, we have this Minister of Law some time back, Ho Ping Kee. Ho Ping Kee. I don't know whether you remember him. Ho Ping Kee, was a Minister of State for Law, right? Under the rule of law, Singapore Parliamentary Debates, official report, 24th of November 1999. All right, so volume 71, okay, column 592. All right, he states that, in short, the rule of law refers to the supremacy of law as opposed to the arbitrary exercise of power. The other key tenet is that everyone is equal before the law. Now, this is a Minister of State for Law. I'm not dragging from here. I'm not dragging from somewhere in Britain. I'm not dragging from somewhere in the United States or what. Okay, so this is not only applicable here, but it's also a precedent set for our Minister of State for Law, Ho Ping Kee. The other key tenet is that everyone is equal before the law. The concept also includes notion of transparency, openness, prospective applications of our law. Now, prospective applications of our law means forward-looking, as opposed to retrospective applications of law, which is backward-looking. Okay? Yeah. Okay, so it means that, yes, we do have cases of retrospective application of law, but the basis of that, okay, the British have their own way of doing that. That's because they're under parliamentary sovereignty, which are not, yeah? We are supposed to having a codified constitution. The purpose of the codified constitution is to safeguard our rights, and we should be under constitutional sovereignty. So if we look at what the Minister of Law is trying to State for Law is trying to tell us, is that the notions of transparency, not by me, this is a PAP minister, openness, prospective application of our law, forward-looking, not backward-looking, observations of the principles of natural justice. Okay, interesting, Iris. Independent of the judiciary and judicial review of administrative action. All right. So in other words, you are supposed and allowed to go for judicial review here. Okay, and independence of the judiciary. The judiciary should be independent. All right. So I don't know how far we have progressed, but as far as I understand, this was what Ho Ping Kee, Minister of State for Law, stated. Look in my footnotes below. Official report, 24th of November 1999. Okay, all this should be the Hansard of the government as well. Yeah. All right. Okay. Yes, as I said, however, occasional retrospective procedural application be allowed under special circumstances in Singapore. or this is run contrary with the principles of having a codified written constitution in the first place, all right? So my reference, okay, you can read the lawexpos.com, Prospective Overruling in Singapore Judicial Framework for the Future, yeah? Also, according to academia, okay, .sg, on the stated 24th of June 2020, a two-third majority is needed for constitutional amendment, all right? So it can be as high as 70 votes or 63 votes, depending on the number of seats, yeah? You just need a two-third majority. So the answer is yes, okay? In special cases, parliamentary sovereignty or two-third agreement, the constitution, which safeguards the people's rights, can be overwritten, although this will represent a serious issue and a reading of the bill in parliament. So any constitution amendment should not be taken lightly, all right? Because the moment it starts, you never know where it ends. Yeah, so it's a serious issue, all right? So it is not like, oh, I'm going to increase your GST by 2% next year. All right, that is serious, but it may not even be as serious as this, because, oh, can I go to work as a hawker next year? I don't know. Is my job going to be overtaken by foreigners? I don't know. Yeah, so those are the type of issues you're looking at, right? Okay, if you touch the constitution, how much CPF you're going to pay, how much what, okay? Because the constitution grants powers to the executive and the parliament. So the moment you touch the basis of those, you amend in any way, it allows for power to run unfettered, yeah? So unfettered power...
Yeah, they're breaking their contract with us. They're changing very much their contract with us.
Essentially. So summary, but they can allow to do it if the parliamentary supermajority of two-thirds is in agreement, all right? Okay?
But not in certain cases. Okay, never mind, you continue. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
Okay. So if the codified constitution... So basically my summary is this. So you look at the above arguments, the issues involved, the conflict of interest in both the President's Oath as well as the WEF, and the WEF ruling themselves on this, right? Provides for sources of issues, right? Why let's take a look at this seriously, right? Why the parliament? So moonlighting is one issue, but the real essence behind the moonlighting is also the change of constitution, and also the clash of the presidential oath as well as the WEF stance, official stance. So if the codified constitution of Singapore is to remain at the highest source of law in the land, then it must follow prospective ruling, right? In fact, we have the Minister of State of Law which affirms this. Not retrospective action, and any retrospective action should be ruled unconstitutional. Otherwise, the alternative, what are you going to get? Parliamentary sovereignty, like in the case of Burma Oil, which would defeat the purpose of safeguarding the system with a presidential role in the first place. So if you wanted a president to prevent a rogue parliament, and now you are going to change the constitution, I mean, which is the greater danger? I can think about it. So if we are following a codified constitution in Singapore, then we must follow the rules of the constitution as outlined even by the Pinky, the Minister of State for Law. But if we are not going to do that and want parliamentary sovereignty, then it's another decision to make. But this will represent a serious issue and reading of the bill in parliament. Many readings and arguments, and debates. So I hope I've clarified the issue with you and laid down some principles and definitions by which you can use in the following arguments. So that's my purpose. Not here to give views or to debate or what, but rather to outline and define the core issues at hand and give the basis for some argument of the WF issue. Why is it important and why is changing our constitution just to suit this important as well. So you can see this, and this is all supported by I think pretty reputable sources of information, as you see below in the quotes. So that concludes my summary and definition for today. So I hope you guys will make up your own mind and argument and take a look at the issues involved. All right.
Thank you so much. So, am I allowed to share your document with everybody? I think it's very well prepared, and then I will share your video as well later after the event. I'll cut it up. Okay.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Free to. No problem. I hope to be of assistance.
Share about the petition. Thank you so much. Thank you. And
no problem.
Please stay on for the next segment, because if you are free, Coach Raymond will talk about what we intend to do. Okay. So but if you can't,
I'm just sharing the legal aspects, so I can help you define and everything and outline the issues involved, and it becomes clearer.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, Raymond, are you there?
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you, Dr. Michael Fang.
Thank you.